What's going on, Legionnaires, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, and make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out. Now it's Sunday, which means it is time for our Indie Comics weekend. And the video to kick it off is Geiger, issue number 2. Now this is written and created by GEOFF JOHNS and Gary Frank. The colorist is Brad Anderson, and it's published by Image Comics. Now, if you didn't get an opportunity to check out issue number 1, go ahead and check out the link in my description, as well as the top of this video. It's going to get you completely caught up on everything that's been going on in this super awesome line. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright guys, so as we jump into issue number 2, we pick up with Geiger before the war, before the bombs dropped, before he became the Meltdown Man. And what we see is Geiger sitting in a doctor's office, talking to his doctor about the cancer that is in his body. So far up to this point, no treatment has worked for him, and they're going to have to try more aggressive measures. Now it seems to be that his health is playing a very vital role in how he became who he is. Because this isn't acting like ordinary cancer. His body is easily reaching temperatures of 120 degrees, and he doesn't even seem to be breaking a sweat. And when his organs should be shutting down, they're just changing. They're changing into something else. And up to this point, the doctors, they're completely baffled. They don't know what to do, except to continue more aggressive, maybe even experimental treatments. But this issue isn't necessarily about Geiger. This issue is really about Las Vegas. About Las Vegas and the people that live inside of it. And this is where it shows us two scavengers. They're making their way on a motorcycle through this nuclear wasteland. And right now they are ecstatic. They have something that the king, quote unquote, of Camelot, quote unquote, will want. Now this guy is really, he's proclaimed himself to be a king. But really what we're seeing is Las Vegas has been broken down into more like Warlords sections. But they have something for the king, something that he is going to want. And as they're making their way through the wasteland, one of them peers off and sees something glowing out in the distance, but it disappears just as fast as she saw it. And this is when they come into Las Vegas territory. Pulling their bike inside, they go through a vigorous cleaning system to make sure that there's no radiation left on their bodies. And this is when they arrive at Camelot. They get off of the motorcycle, they undress in what looks to be extremely fancy attire, and they make their way into the casino floor. Now, as they go inside, we see a lot of different things here. For one, we see up in the higher parts of this casino, we have an individual telling a story about how the king's men had returned from Boulder after literally terrified with their encounter of the glowing man. And so the king, he led a crusade to face this creature. And the story goes that they fought this creature, they fought the glowing man, and the king banned him from ever coming close again, to remain in the wasteland for the rest of his times. And as our two scavengers make their way through the casino floor, they go up to two individuals, one named Hazmat and the other named Warhead. Now these seem to be, wannabe Knights of the Round Table. But these are the guys they gotta talk to. If they want a court with the king, if they want an audience, they have to be able to go through these guys first to be able to get that. And so bringing this artifact before Hazmat, they let him know that it came off of Air Force One, and that they had to trade it with the Oregon people. They had to trade a heart to get this thing. Now they believe that they didn't know what they had, but they seem to do. They seem to know whatever this item is. But it's something the scavengers refer to as the Holy Grail. Now Hazmat, he wants to complete his game. He's sitting here gambling, and so he throws his dice. And while everybody is distracted, we see a waitress eyeballing this artifact. Seeing an opportunity to grab it, she grabs it while nobody is looking except for the bartender. The bartender sees her walking out with this thing. Now this is where we meet Haley and Henry. These are Carolina's children. And they're sitting here washing dishes. Haley, she's 16 years old, and so she's worried that any kind of job placement she's going to get is going to have something to do with a sexual nature that she doesn't want for her daughter. It's essentially, prostitution with slavery attached. It's the worst kind of thing that you could ever wish for for your daughter to grow up and be. And so stealing this artifact was really her idea of finding a ticket out of here. And this is where we see Carolina come running through the door and telling them that they need to pack. They need to pack everything immediately. Now the kids, they're a little bit panicked here, but Carolina, she lets them know, like, I've been waiting for an opportunity. I've been waiting for something to be able to get us out of here, to get us to some kind of safety and to some kind of freedom. And this is finally our chance. This is our one chance to be able to make our escape. Now Carolina, she gives us a little bit of information on what this relic is. It's something from before the war, and she refers to it as a nuclear football. And the king has been after this thing for some years now. And she tells her children, she tells them that they need to get to NORAD as soon as possible. That seems to be the last hope that anybody has. Any kind of government that still exists for America, they're around NORAD right now. And so they want to make a hightail out of here and try to get there as fast as possible. And she's been planning for this day. She has a card that's going to activate the elevators to get them to the garage. She has a set of car keys that's going to unlock a specific vehicle that they can take and make to NORAD. But they have to leave right this instant. And as soon as those words come out of her mouth, this is when we see Hazmat kicking down the door. The children were able to hide away as this is happening, and Hazmat goes to interrogate the mother to ask what happened to the relic. And after asking only one time, they don't want to play any games. You know, this place isn't that big of a place. They can search it. They can look around and see if they can find it. And this is when we see one of them pull out a sword and jab it into Carolina's stomach. And one of the children exclaim in terror. Now Warhead and Hazmat, realizing that there is somebody underneath the sink, they go to investigate, only to get sprayed in the face with what I can only assume is dish detergent, or maybe some kind of cleaner. But whatever it is, it makes Warhead step back because he's temporarily blinded. And this is when the kids get the opportunity to make their run. And they make a mad dash for the elevators as fast as humanly possible. And they barely make it with seconds, just mere seconds to spare. And so they get the opportunity to get away. They run downstairs, put on the radioactive suits, and go looking for the vehicle. Finding it inside the garage, they get inside and they hightail it out of there. Now this is where we start to see the kids really start to be affected by everything that just happened. The adrenaline is finally fading off, and they don't know what to do here. They don't know if they're going to be chased after. They don't know what they're doing at all. They just know that they have to go about 80 miles south and try to find NORAD, where the remaining of the American government may be. And as we see them driving along this road, this is when they're attacked. They're attacked by giant radioactive mutated ants. And we see them jump all over the vehicle, and it causes them to skid all over the road and eventually end up crashing. And this is where we see the two grab their things and try to hurry out of the vehicle as fast as humanly possible, running for their lives as these giant ants are chasing them down. Two of these ants end up catching up to them, tackling, and it looks like this may be the end. But this is when we see Geiger's two-headed mutated hybrid dog show up out of nowhere and literally rip these ants to pieces. And this is where we get an awesome pinup, and Geiger is literally just ripping these ants to pieces like they're nothing. Now Haley and Henry, they take this as their opportunity to run away, and they go running only to be cut off by a giant mutated radioactive scorpion. But alas, none of these mutated insects stand any kind of chance against the glowing man. And this is where we see some kind of speared weapon go directly into the scorpion and kill it instantaneously. And Geiger tells them, like, you guys need to get home. You need to get home before something bigger comes along. But he also asks, before you go, do you happen to have any good books on you that I might be able to read? This is a man who is just starving for some kind of entertainment. And living in a nuclear wasteland, I can only imagine how scarce it is for any kind of reading material or entertainment in general. But this is when we're taken back to Camelot. And in Camelot, we see Warhead and Hazmat. They're kneeling before the king because they failed. The relic has got away, and it's out in the wasteland. It's out in the wasteland where the Meltdown Man is, where Geiger is. And the king, he's kind of scared of this guy because the last time he had an encounter with him, he literally had most of his face melted off. And so now this is personal. Now he wants to make a pact with some other of the warlords. And this is where he tells them to bring his mask. And he makes his way to Manhattan. The Manhattan that's inside of Las Vegas. And he goes up to a woman that seems to be running this entire establishment. Someone that goes by the name of Miss Borden. And he's come here to make a proposition. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Personally, I'm thinking it's a lot of fun. I'm thoroughly enjoying this line by Geoff Johns and Gary Frank. They really have been knocking it out of the park. And I really have been enjoying these big names, you know, starting to do these indie comics. And really have that artistic freedom that we don't get to see them have when it comes to Marvel and DC Comics. You know, issue number 1 was a introduction to Geiger. Issue number 2 is an introduction to kind of the politics that surround what is inside of Las Vegas and the individuals that live there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you don't miss any of the awesome content we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.